about your own understanding of God. And what I would invite you to do is allow yourself to not get caught in the semantics of it. I know that God can be a hot button for some people, that they haven't had a really delicious understanding and relationship with God, so call it whatever you would like. The divine, the creative source, the Tao. Ernest Holmes called it the thing itself, or just simply it. So I'm talking about God in the greatest, most expansive understanding of what that means to you. Emma Curtis Hopkins said this. Now, Emma Curtis Hopkins was a teacher of our founder, Ernest Holmes. So Emma Curtis Hopkins taught some really powerful people, and she was called the teacher of the teachers. So the Fillmores, she taught the Fillmores. She taught the women who started divine science. So she's part of our philosophy's lineage. She said this: no word can express your understanding of God. You are it. You're it. You're the God of your own understanding. Then she said, I am my own understanding of God. These words bring you face to face with the highest of yourself. So if you have had siblings, I would remind you that your parents were entirely different than your siblings' parents. We all are raised by different parents, aren't we? Yeah. And that is the same truth with the divine. We all have a different concept of the divine. I met a woman that used to come to this church just in passing last week. And she said to me that she didn't come anymore because she'd taken classes on atheism, and she is now a proclaimed atheist. And then in the next breath she said that she's a Jesus freak. And I have to tell you that my head was going like, really? She said to me, you can never go back. And I thought, we didn't have time to talk, which is probably a good thing. Because I was reminded of the story of the prodigal son. You know, the prodigal son went out and did his thing, and then he came back. I don't know about you, but I went through a cycle of atheism. But I never really believed it. I never really had a connection with no God. It had a different behavior, perhaps, or a different attitude than the one that I had grown up with, the one that sat in the throne up in the heavens and zapped me with lightning when I was misbehaving. And thinking about that God had a real strong likeness of Santa Claus. Did you ever notice that? That the God in the sky sitting on the throne looked an awful lot like the guy that sat on the throne at the mall and listened to my
Kept track
desire.
of who's naughty and nice.
Yeah, and I was pretty naughty at that time,
Right.
so there you go.
Michelangelo was Moses.
Yeah. So you can espouse the wonder of God, the magnificence of God, the glory of God. You can espouse all those things. But your life is just like a mirror. What you actually believe God to be is showing up in your life. So if you believe in a pernicious, demanding, judgmental, critical lightning zapper, then your life is going to show up that way. You're going to show up feeling judged, you're going to show up feeling criticized, you're going to show up being unloved, and your life is going to be filled with lack and limitations, and your relationships are not going to go well. Because that's the God that you believe in. That's the God that you're seeing. And that's the world that you're seeing. If, however, you believe in an expansive, loving, gracious, supportive, fulfilling, rich, divine one, that's how your life is going to show up. Our attention is the way that God's going to show up for each one of us. We all have, and I'm putting this in quotes, a different God. Like we all had different parents. How we show up in the world is what we actually believe God to be in our lives. There's a woman Reverend Letta Miller, who is in Wichita, Kansas, and she wrote in the Science of Mind magazine this: if everyone is their understanding of God, what does that say about the God of their understanding? Do we embrace ourselves with consistent, loving self-care, displaying a loving, cherishing God? Or do we neglect ourselves and present a hit or miss God who's undependable and uncaring? Does your God give you confidence and eternal givingness? Or do we live in fear of lack, that God will not provide our needs? Look at your life. What's showing up for you? That's the God you believe in. Fortunately, you can make a choice to be expansive, to expect your God to be expansive, to notice where your life is flowing and rich and beautiful, or where it's pinched and ugly and sad. It's totally up to you. For me, it's a beautiful universe. It's a glorious universe. I cannot believe there is no God. I can't be an atheist. I came into these teachings because of science. I thought science had an explanation for God and the universe. And sure enough, there's a commingling. We are religious science. Religious science. We can't separate the creator of those scientific principles from the God that there is. It's all the same thing. So how can it ever be an accident, any of it, that the cosmos is just flowing so beautifully? Pluto? Wow. 3 million miles away and we get to see it? And where did those principles come from that allowed us to shoot a satellite out past the hemisphere? Well, I don't even know how to explain it, much less understand how it was done. And still, we get to see it. And it's not an accident that we get to see it, and it's not an accident that it's out there. That the whole cosmos has been created by some intelligent force or source. I love that little phrase about to believe that the universe is an accident is to believe that some printer threw letters up in the air and it came down in the Bible. Really? That's the same kind of principle. It cannot be an accident. It just can't be. No logical explanation for an accident makes any sense as far as I'm concerned. Something, whatever you want to call it, put it all together in this vast, glorious, expansive universe. Carved the Grand Canyon, the 7 wonders of the world, put humankind in this space and in this place, made all of us very different and yet very much the same. When you want to know what your God looks like, look in the mirror. That's who you are, that unique and perfect and amazing expression of the divine. You're no accident. You didn't come into this world as an accident. Some of you may have been unplanned. There's that whole concept that God is as full and as rich as you choose it to be. So you can go to the lake for water, and you can take a thimble, and you can get a thimbleful of water. Or you can take a cup to the lake for water, and get a cup full of water. Or you can take a bucket. Or you can take yourself, and you can wallow in it, and swim in it, and drink it, and be filled and surrounded by it endlessly. It's totally up to you. What you take to the lake is what you get. And that is the same truth. What we take to the divine and understand of the divine is how it shows up for us. Make no mistake. The highest God and the innermost God is the same God. How we perceive it, how we interact with it, how we choose to relate to it is purely a choice. Purely a choice. My God, and this is just my God, is filled with laughter and filled with humor. Kind of silly, full of joy. That's how I choose to express God, to understand God. God with a humor. Some people choose to perceive God as judgmental and critical, to be angry, to be unfair, to favor some over others. That's your belief in God. Go for it. I wish you well. I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm saying you're not right for me. I prefer my God. The one that's loving and supportive. The one that laughs and dances and sings. That's how I perceive my God. Ernest Holmes said, "The only God man knows is the God of his own inner life. He can know no other." only God man knows is the God of his own inner life. He can know no other. So if I choose to be a beneficial presence in this world, if I choose world peace, that's what must show up for me. So if I choose to be totally non-judgmental in a negative way, if I choose to be loving, if I choose to be forgiving, if I choose for my relationships to be smoothly running, if I choose for abundance in my life, if I choose for joy and for laughter and for singing and for dancing, if I choose peace, then my world is a peaceful world. I live in a world of peace. I cannot change other people's vision or view of the world, but I can choose to change my vision and view of the world. I can choose to change the way my life shows up. And when I choose a world that is filled with love and peace for myself, and you choose it, 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 then we will have world peace. Cannot be otherwise. I can't pray for world peace until I absolutely, accurately display it in my own life. And do I have some work to do? Yep. But that doesn't mean that I can't be totally at peace with everyone I encounter. That doesn't mean that I cannot look at the whole of humankind without judgment, without criticism. That I can't see a world that's filled with promise, with life and love and abundance for everyone. A world that works for everyone. I can only do my little bit with my God in a cooperative, loving fashion. So, just want to speak Emma's words again. No word can express your understanding of God. You are it. I would invite you to join with me and just take a deep breath and expand your view, consciously expand your view of God. Can we do it together?
Yeah.
God is an amazingly expansive, loving essence, no matter what name you give it. And I choose to love each one of you. I choose to see each one of you as an expression of my God. So when I say to you, Namaste, I mean it. listeners, join me as we hold this lovely community in consciousness. I move within myself to connect and commune with that essence that I call God. I make a conscious effort to polish up, shine up the mirror that I am, reflecting into this world of the divine. I expand my vision of dynamic vitality and vigor. I expand my vision of what good health and vitality and wellness looks like and feels like. I expand my vision of abundance and prosperity. All of the good that I can accept and receive from that loving essence that is my God expression. I expand my vision of what it looks like to be totally at peace in the world. Totally joyful. Totally happy. Totally in love with life. I know God is limitless. God is expansive, elastic. So I know that that is the truth. And I know that as I am in gratitude, more and more to be grateful for shows up in my life. I celebrate that. I celebrate that for myself and for everyone present. I say, yay, God. Flow it to me, flow it through me. And so I invite you to own the largest, the most expansive, the most glorious, beneficial, loving essence as your God right this moment. I invite you to welcome a good God, a great God, an expansive, huge, dynamic God into your life. And I invite you to celebrate that, to own it for yourself by joining me as we lock it down